They decided to make exclusive agreement with retailers, kick us off the shelves, because they knew if they were next to us, they were going to lose.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Good Stories. Probably a year later.
Probably longer.
Probably longer, but I don't want to say that. Our CEO, Claudia Goldfarb, has been requesting, and by requesting I mean 10 minutes ago, she said, all right, let's do an episode after a year and a half off. So, Claudia.
Yes.
Mother.
Yes.
Light of my life.
Oof. What do you want?
What do you want to tell the people?
So that's actually a very interesting question. See how seriously she takes me? Imagine working with your daughter every day. This is what you would get.
What a blessing.
No, it really is. So I thought it was important to do this episode because I think that so often people look at our lives, what we've accomplished, what we've built, and it just seems so shiny and great and successful and positive. And I can tell you that yesterday was one of the hardest days I've ever had in business. And so what really drove me to sit here today, which you guys know I don't like being on camera and I'm not a very public person, is there were times yesterday that I didn't want to get up. I sat there and cried after calls because it was such a difficult day. And it was difficult because we had our earnings call and we've achieved over $30 million in revenue this past year, but we had a bad quarter and our stock went from $12 to $4. And I had people send me text messages, that had foul language and telling me that, they were canceling their dinner with me next week. And then I had other people that texted me and said, no matter what, we love you anyway. And throughout yesterday, I had these two lovely children that kept checking in on me because after the call, then you have all your investor calls. And I will say 90% of our investors were like, hey, we believe in you guys. You had a tough quarter. You're going to have a tough second half of the year. It happens. You created a category from scratch.
My mother did so poorly on this call that not only one, but multiple people said, we believe in you. We're going to buy even more stock.
Yeah.
So that's how poorly she did.
But, throughout the day, I would get these messages. This isn't the hardest thing you've done. We've been through worse. There have been more dramatic moments. There were days when the girls were growing up, I didn't have money to put gas in the car. And it puts things in perspective. And I wanted to sit here because, yes, my life is amazing. I don't have to worry about whether I can afford gas in the car anymore or not. I don't have to worry about, where my rent payment's going to come from. But to get to this place, to get to the place where you don't have to worry about those things, it's not a linear path and it's not easy. To get from not being able to put gas in the cars to this beautiful office and this amazing company that we're building. Peaks and valleys. I tell the girls, my life has been peaks and valleys.
It's like mountaintop, Kilimanjaro, Everest, and then the Mariana Trench.
And not everyone can go through that. It takes a certain amount of grit and resilience. And when things are going poorly or when you have obstacles in front of you, all of the doubts that we all have, right? Because we all have them. Do I really deserve to be here? What makes me special? What is my skill set? What if I don't know what I'm doing? All of those things come to the forefront. And so I wanted to sit here today and go, yeah, yesterday sucked. And yesterday, after every call, I would cry, dry the eyes, ice packs, very key yesterday, get back on the call and start grinding again. Because if you give up that doubt, those pressures, they win. And the reason we're sitting here with a bad quarter is because
I was going to say, let's get into it.
we had a large CPG company that decided or realized they couldn't compete with us on shelf. Because our premise has always been, we will create the best product at the best price, best quality.
Yep.
And so when the big boys decided to come in, they realized they couldn't take on the big girl. You know what? We'll work on whatever that is.
Let's go.
Yeah. And so, did they compete with me on shelf? No. They decided to make exclusive agreement with retailers, kick us off the shelves, because they knew if they were next to us, they were going to lose. And so, now it's on. Because we're not going to roll over and die. We're not going to succumb to the pressure. You can kick us out of whatever retailers you want. Guess what? There are other retailers that know how good we are, that are supporting us because they want choice. They want quality product. They want the best price. And they want to support the companies that innovated, the companies that went deep, put every dollar that they had in their pocket into a company to create something new. And those were the words that kept playing in my head when I was sad or when I was depressed yesterday. It was, okay, if you roll over and die, they win. And what message does that send? And that is never the legacy I want to live or leave behind. There's always going to be moments of incredible joy and extreme success. And there's going to be days like yesterday where you sit there and you cry because you're overwhelmed and you don't know the right course of action. And yesterday, as I sat there and said, what is the course of action I should take right now? The one thing I knew for sure was putting one foot in front of the other, continuing to believe in what we're doing, continuing to develop the best product, continuing to innovate. That's what I'm going to do. And so for me today, it's really about no matter what you're going through, whether it's a job, a relationship, school, you're going to have failure. You're going to have doubt. You're going to have moments where you sit there and go, I just don't want to do it anymore. How you handle that, what you do in those moments is really going to decide what your future is. It's going to decide what my ultimate legacy is. It's going to decide what this company ends up becoming. And, there's going to be other failures in my future. There's going to be other things that don't work out the way that I expect them to. But I do know that if I don't get up and fight, if I don't get up and move forward, then no one else dictated my success or my future. I did. And that's not something I'm willing to live with. So that's what I wanted to talk about.
I could just stay here all day. There's only so much we can say. And I think you touched on everything that we can say and should say. But I'll ask you a question. How does it feel that we made a big enough impact that
They're trying to ride on my coattails?
The biggest players, multi-billion-dollar companies, made a product and tried to compete with you? Like, how insane is it that we were able to make a big enough splash that we got multi-billion-dollar companies to take action, to take notice, and to go much further than we expected them to go?
Yeah. That part, super flattering, super cool. I have no issue with them competing with me.
Right.
Like, to me,
that's America.
Wow. You are my child. I don't need DNA proof.
But what's not America?
Not America is exclusivity agreements where you take people off the shelf. That's not America. For me, everything we've ever done, right, has been about creating amazing products, creating employment opportunities for people, enriching people's lives. look, I want to keep enriching my life. It's definitely a goal of mine, but I don't want to do it just for me. I want to do it for everyone around us. That's why it was so important for us when we started Sow Good for every employee to have stock options, because I wanted everyone to have skin in the game. And so, it's incredibly flattering that we helped pioneer this category that has been so disruptive, and that these major players are now taking note of and starting to come into. I welcome that. I want this category to grow. I want more people to be aware of it. I want more people to experience the power of freeze drying. I mean, why did we start Sow Good? Because we believed in the power of freeze drying technology and how innovative it could be and how it had been applied to so few categories in the CPG space. So for me, it was super exciting. Let's get more eyeballs in here. Let's get people more aware as to how powerful freeze drying technology can be. So, that part I love. Right. The anti-competitiveness is just something that, for me, for what I believe is right and wrong, that's not a stance I would ever take. And that's not something I would ever do.
Since we last did this podcast, people might not even realize what we did before, or they might not realize we now do candy. So why don't you walk them through?
Yeah. So, I think we did do one podcast when we were first starting to do candy.
We did.
And if you guys remember, we were doing the better for you space, ready to blend smoothies, fruits and veggies.
OG Sow G.
OG Sow G.
Love you forever.
Oh my gosh, I actually love that. When we bring it back, that's totally what it should be called.
I've been saying that for a year. The next day I called it OG Sow G.
Okay, well, I have selective memory, so it's a byproduct
Moving
of age.
On. So OG Sow G, freeze-dried fruit chips, veggie chips, sweet potato chips with dill and salt on them. Amazing, so good. Ready to blend smoothies. That's a level of innovation that was really tricky for the market then, because where do you put that? Where in retail stores? It doesn't go next to the juice. It doesn't go next to the water section. Shelf-stable, freeze-dried smoothies, where do you put that? It was a life changer for me in my life. I never had breakfast until OG Sow G, and then making a smoothie bowl with our freeze-dried granola on top.
Our freeze-dried granola, game changing.
Acai blueberry granola, I love you forever. So it was our brainchild. We loved OG Sow G, but
brought to you by the power of freeze-drying technology. It didn't work at retail.
Yeah, the smoothies were the most innovative by far, but there was no place in retail. So when freeze-dried candy started becoming popular on TikTok, we had customers, retailers, you guys on our website, on our social media asking, do you guys do freeze-dried candy? And we're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Candy? We've never done candy in our life.
Yeah.
None of us eat candy. And so we said, okay, we have the capacity to do it. We can dip a toe in and we can try. We went to a
because we dip our toe into everything we do.
Fully submerged. Week 1, we came to buyers with freeze-dried candy samples in plastic bags. They did not look cute. Not demure, not cutesy, not mindful. And
I still don't know what that means.
We have a PR
if you guys
agency now, so now I'm caught up on the lingo. I'm like a month behind, but yeah. People are watching and be like, that's so old for you. Okay. And then the retailers loved it. We had lines of people. And from then, life changed. It changed because I went from chasing retailers to buy OG Sow G to we do not have enough product. We do not have enough space. We do not have enough variety. We don't have nothing was enough ever. I was working alone on the sales side. I was spending so much time trying to talk to every retailer I could. We had to say no to retailers.
Yep.
Remember those days?
We were turning product every 72 hours. We would have trucks pull up to the dock and there would still be product coming out of the freeze dryer.
I would tell retailers, I think we'll have a full truckload for you today. It's literally coming out of the freeze dryers and then straight onto your truck. So I'll let you know in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And we had trucks that would wait. The retailer.
They would wait 5 hours. The truck drivers would wait there until, and they're like, because the stores need this product.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was crazy.
And you would think then I would feel like happy and so good, but it's stress on a totally different level, because suddenly you're making customers, you guys, angry, the biggest retailers in the country, in the world, angry, because you don't have enough candy that you only started making a month ago.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you have these original SKUs. What can you do next? What can you do next? What can you do next? And so now we have a line of 16 SKUs probably, and we're always innovating.
21 with Halloween.
Yes.
And Christmas.
So it was just insanity. And I remember when we made the change to candy, I felt like a sellout at first.
Yeah.
First, people were saying, you were in a very specific sector, and now you're completely swapping sectors, and that's all that you're doing. One, we literally had no capacity to do anything else.
Yeah.
Two, there's something I learned about being so drawn to a product that you do that you can't let go of it, and you are so insistent that you're right. And when we switched to candy, and candy is not something that I eat morning, noon, and night, I let the customers tell me what they wanted. I stepped back. I had no ego involved. I said, you guys want taffy? You guys want lemon? You guys want sour, sweet, spicy? Whatever you want. I'm not personally invested into one particular SKU. I'm just listening to the market. I'm listening to what you guys are DMing, emailing, calling. We had 12-year-olds calling us saying, I brought my candy to class. I am the coolest kid. Thank you. And that just brought a smile to my face. And one of our dear, dear, dear board members, who is like the grandfather of CPG, he's someone who I go to for advice, he said, there's different types of better for you. Something that makes you happy, something that makes you feel joyous and puts a smile on your face and creates something new and exciting. Is that not better for you? And I remember making the product, and we had a family come in for a site tour. And they're like, wow, this is Candyland. This is some of the coolest things I've ever seen. And there was a kid who was snacking on the candy, and her mom said, okay, that's enough. No more. You've had enough. And she said, this is the same piece that I've had this entire time. She wasn't going through an entire bag. She was chewing on one piece, because what is freeze-dried candy? It's hyper-dried, hyper-crunchy, hyper-flavorful, and it satisfies your sweet tooth in fewer bites. So the mom said, oh, amazing. Keep going.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was such a shift for me. I had such a specific, privileged idea of what better for you means. You know, is it only a $15 smoothie that 1% of America can afford? Why not a candy that is better for you and that you eat fewer pieces, it's fewer calories in the bag, and it truly does satisfy your sweet tooth in fewer bites? You need one crunchy worm rather than 20 pieces.
Yeah.
And is that not better for you? I had such narrow mindset and blinders when I entered the space of better for you. And now we have kids all over, not even kids anymore, it's so many ages, where this is their little treat. They just need a couple pieces.
Yeah.
And that's it. And so it's accessible to so many more people. It's a candy that actually tastes good. They're not going to use a no sugar candy that people don't actually like, and then they actually binge on something with actual sugar. And so, you know what? I hope that people grow up with freeze-dried with us along our entire journey. And throughout the last 2 years, we've innovated candy to be incrementally healthier. And you can speak to that, because
I think that's something that we want to focus on going forward.
Yeah.
You know, as Lexie mentioned, we started in the better for you space. That really was our passion. And our passion was better for you, our technology, creating employment opportunities for the people in our community. Like, those aren't words to us. That's really how we live our lives. And so, you know, as we've gotten deeper into this candy journey, one of the things we're taking a really deep, hard look at this is, what are the ingredients we're using in our candy? I am super excited that our candy making machine just arrived. And it's going to take us about 2 or 3 months to put it into operation. But one of the things that really drove us into investing in, you know, candy making technology is we wanted to be able to create better formulations. Look, at the end of the day, it's going to be candy. To Lexie's point, when you want that little bit of sweetness, and I think, I like our mint to be, so I'll have a few pieces every once in a while. It satisfies my sugar craving. It gives me a little sugar boost when I want it. It's delicious.
But also, what is healthy?
Yeah.
Because there are so many different viewpoints. When we had literal freeze-dried strawberries, freeze-dried blueberries, when you go into that community of very, very health-focused people, they would say, this isn't healthy. This is just straight sugar, Yeah. And it's like, no matter what you do, the cleanest ingredients, people will always have a complaint about. Is it really healthy, though? You want to live a miserable life? Go ahead. But some people just, they want to live a normal life, not
moderation. Moderation. I do think that is a key. And I do think that it brings joy to people's lives. And if they eat it in moderation, I think what we do is amazing because it does satisfy your sweet tooth in fewer bites. But that doesn't mean that we can't be better about the ingredients that we put in there or changing some of the ingredients that are in candy. So that's something that bringing production in-house is going to help us do, which is just make it a little bit better from a flavor profile, an ingredient profile, how it freeze dries. And it's also going to help us bring actual candy in its original format to people because freeze drying is expensive. If you guys remember, our freeze dryers are anywhere between $1 million to $2 million a freeze dryer. The labor is very expensive. Depending on the product, we can only get 700 to 2,000 pounds in there. That's why freeze drying is so expensive because the technology, the labor, the amount of time, the throughput. And, some people want the Sow Good experience without that premium price point. So us launching our candy in its raw format, whether it's the chamoy, the chamoy gummies coming out soon. Soy chamoy.
And I think another thing that fascinated me, if you guys recall, I went to college for neuroscience. After neuroscience, I worked at a commercial litigation firm in New York City, and then we started Sow Good, and then I came as a director of sales and branding. So I've lived very different lives over the last 10 years.
You are my child.
And how many times are we going to say we loved Sow GOG? And then when we transitioned to candy, I fell in love with the business side. It was so cool. As I said, with the freeze-dried smoothies, it didn't have a place on shelf. Freeze-dried candy, there's a candy space already on shelf, but it's so new and it's so innovative that people know where to find it. They know to find it in candy, and they know that there's going to be something new and exciting.
Yep.
And think of the last time there was massive innovation in candy. It's either extra big or extra small or extra sweet or extra sour or extra spicy. When was the last huge innovation in a massive category ever done?
14 months ago when Sow Good came to market.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that was something truly fascinating to see, that we were taking a product from a TikTok
trend
to
I still don't know what TikTok really is.
To an everyday product on shelf, and to see that from start to where we are now. We're a public company. We're on NASDAQ. We rang the bell in New York in May. Yeah. Wild. Just the last year and a half has been absolute insanity. Thank you guys for following along. Thank you for being with us through thick and thin. And
I do think today I wanted to reset and I wanted to restart, because I do think that the highs and lows, the peaks and valleys, so often, especially on social media or these podcasts, the only things we ever highlight are the extreme highs. And that's just not life. And so I wanted to reinvite you guys into our space and start at the very bottom. And I understand that that's slightly dramatic, right? Because
the very bottom's not a tough place to
be. We're incredibly fortunate, but it's a tough time because we're up against giants. And it's scary.
We're the David.
I'm the Davida. But
It's a Friday afternoon.
It's been a long week.
And I also want to speak to my mom's current mental state because...
Wow. Can we not?
Because as she said, we're incredibly fortunate. Where we started out was not... It was tough. It was tough for you. But there's a difference between that and now, because even though you don't have to worry about how you fill the gas in your tank, how you get groceries, you employ almost
the part that's worse.
You employ almost 200 people. You don't have to worry about yourself. You have to worry about hundreds of people. And
I take that very seriously.
And so when it's just you, you can feel pity for yourself. When it's other people, you feel guilt. And I think guilt is so much worse than pity. And you have to just really live with the knowledge that you are affecting hundreds of people's lives, and that makes it infinitely more difficult. So when you have a bad day, it's not just you that you think about. You have so many more kids to think about. Yeah. So I don't envy that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to take you on this new journey, us against the giants.
I want to acknowledge the good parts too, moving forward more, because when we had those insane days, morning, noon, night, we didn't appreciate at the time. I know I was stressed too at that point, and I'm stressed now. And with a startup, like we said, peaks and valleys, and you need to enjoy and appreciate and take a moment for each stage, because like that, a bad moment can turn good, or a good moment can turn bad, and you're going to look back and say, when did that happen? Is that what having a kid's like?
Oh my gosh.
The baby's just growing so fast, and I don't want to miss out on it because I'm so in my head, or I'm just thinking about what other people are thinking about, or I'm thinking about the future, and you just need to think about what's happening right now.
Well, I do think that's also a byproduct of taking responsibility and innovating and pioneering. Because to your point yesterday, the things that made yesterday hard wasn't me. It wasn't my life, because no matter what happens, we're always going to be okay. It is, I take our investors, I take our employees, I take all the people that either depend on me, believe in me, or want to be part of our journey very seriously, because they matter to me, and they are like kids. And there are times, Ira and I were talking about this yesterday. Why do we always put ourselves in these positions? Why?
You didn't. We could have started another business.
We could have retired.
Yeah.
And I do think about that a lot. I think about, okay, I could have retired 4 years ago, and I wouldn't be having this mental breakdown in the room upstairs with my blankie and my pillow.
We get a text from her saying, I'm with blankie and pillow and all my comfort foods.
And
I'm like, okay, we need to check in regularly.
But I think about that, and I think about all the people we've met on this journey. Like when we had Prairie Dog, I can tell you all the people whose lives we changed because we gave them an opportunity. And I think to Sow Good, and I think about Nate and JR and all of these people in our team that needed an opportunity to showcase who they were and to grow. And they've become such amazing professionals. And just to see that growth, it is like a kid. I am like a proud mama, We had an employee that his first day, his desk was literally in like a closet-sized room. He had no title. We didn't know what we were going to have him do. Fast forward 4 years, he's our director of operations. That's amazing to me.
Big Nate.
Yeah. And so I'm going to end it there. And to Lexie's point, we're going to take you through this roller coaster ride we're going to embark on right now.
In 6 months, we will.
In 6 months, we're going to dominate.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to innovate.
Every 6 months of Sow Good is like it's a new company. Every 6 months, you walk in and people are like, what? What do you guys do now? This is crazy. From the employees that we had when they started to where they are now, they're like, it's insane.
And we're going to stay very focused on candy, on its original format, its freeze-dried format. But, you know, our growth story isn't going to stop because someone decided that they were too scared to compete with me.
Mother, it's been a pleasure.
Bye, guys.
We love
Have
you guys.
a good weekend.
Until next time. Bye.